yourself.
Marie. Hi, Marie. Yeah. Yeah. Go on, Tamkara.
Yeah, so my name is Tamkara Adun. I'm Nigerian. And at the moment, I live in Qatar with my husband and my kids. In my previous life, I used to work for an oil company and a mining company in a HR capacity. So I was an HR advisor. At the moment, I work for myself. I deal in property management on one side, and on the other side, I create educational content on African history and heritage. And recently, I started a language school where people can come online and learn how to speak the Yoruba language. So that's Yoruba language is one of the three major languages of Nigeria, and there are other tribes that speak Yoruba language as well. So my goal really is to help Africans at home and in diaspora to reconnect with their history, first of all, and also to reconnect with their local dialects. So as opposed to speaking only English or French, I want people to reconnect to their roots by really speaking, learning, and communicating in our local African dialects, because I think it's really important. So that's it about me.
Okay. Hi, Mary. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi. Yes, I'm Mary. I'm from Nairobi, and can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Oh, excellent. So I'm from Nairobi, and I believe that as Africans, it's very important for us to speak in our languages. And I just love what she said earlier, that we express ourselves in our mother tongue. It's just a pity now that we all have to speak in this foreign language. And
Yes.
I make sure that we, as Kenyans, speak our mother tongue and also speak our national language, Swahili. Do you have any other questions? Hello?
No, I don't have another question.
So I have a question. So you said that you help to make sure that Kenyans speak their mother tongue. How do you do that? I'm curious. How do you go about doing that?
So in our education system, we ensure that Swahili is part of the curriculum. Even for private schools, they give it as an option. And a lot of parents nowadays are realizing that the children need to speak at least one African language. Even if people are intermarried across ethnicities, they try as much as possible to ensure that the children speak one African language, and that mainly is Swahili. In fact, a lot of people my age who have younger children are now beginning to realize that we're losing our mother tongue. So people are going back to learn mother tongue, be it in institutions or going to speak to other people, like elders, to teach their children mother tongue.
Yeah. Really, really impressive what you're doing. Well done. I love it.
But I'm not doing it. I'm not doing. I don't quite have an institution that does that. So let me point that out. This is something that our government has pushed forward as a policy. So we made Swahili the national language, and it's taught in school. And in fact, if you are to become a member of parliament, you have to be fluent in at least English and Swahili. So these are some of the things that, as a nation, we have encouraged to give ourselves a sense of identity.
Yeah, I really like that. And I think that with Kenya, I think it's a bit easier because you seem to have you have dialects, I know, you have different dialects, but you have one.
We call them languages.
Yeah, okay, you have different languages, I know, but I think every Kenyan that I've met can speak Swahili. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes,
so your
that's
major
very
language
true.
is Swahili. But in a country like Nigeria, we have three major languages. We have the Yoruba, the Hausa, and the Igbo. So there's always been this tussle to see which language will be selected to be the national language. And because there's no agreement, everyone wants their language to be the national language of communication. We've stuck to the English language. And then there's a thing where in Nigeria, I would say, we believe that, it's cool to be Western, it's cool to speak English, but not just speak English, but speak it the way the British speak it, or speak it the way the Americans speak it. So not only are we taking the language, but we're also trying to take the accents as well. And
but that is so true.
And I find that really infuriating. It's like someone gives you a biscuit and you eat the cookie and the wrapper, You want to just really, and for me, I say to people, and there's this Kenyan author I like, Ngugi, what's his name? Ngugi.
Ngugi wa Thiong'o.
Yeah. I love him so much. And he says, you know, if you live your language and you're proud of someone else's language, it's like you're being proud of borrowed clothes. So yeah. So for me, that's why I really try to help people get back to their roots by way of their language.
We're very lucky in East Africa because we had this lingua franca already established for us, Swahili.
Yeah.
So it was very easy to incorporate. And because it's a lingua franca, it's very easy to learn. Most Kenyans tend to be either... most Kenyans tend to be either Nilots, Bantu, or Kushites, but it's still a language that can be understood.
Yeah, and I think between all the languages, there are some similarities. But if you look at Nigeria, for example, if you listen to Hausa, Yoruba, and Igbo, they are totally different. There's really no similarities that you could say.
Excuse me, guys. We have Joshua that just joined, and someone else just joined. So, hi, Joshua, can you introduce yourself, please? Do you hear me, Joshua?
He needs to unmute himself.
Joshua, do you hear us?
You guys hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. These headphones.
Yeah, we hear you.
Oh, let me turn off the Bluetooth for a second.
Merci à vous aussi.
Halma, can you introduce yourself as well? Alma.
All right, you guys can hear me better now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Joshua. I'm from Philadelphia. I got invited by his brother Pierre to be on this podcast. I was on it last week. Got in a little late. I was having trouble logging in, but I'm here now. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm from, like I said, I'm from Philadelphia. I do a lot of posts and talking about our history as far as African people. My grandparents and my mom from the West Indies, so we're from Haiti, and I do a lot of talk about health and fitness in the Black community as well, and unity within the Black family, because that's one of the main things that we need in today's world, especially with the youth, because a lot of parents are not really together like we should be. I'm 29 years old, and just looking to continue to talk to all people of African descent all around the world, so that we can continue to grow together and keep the Black dollar going, and just doing for us. Like we got to do for us. We can't look to other nationalities, because at the end of the day, they're building their wealth every single day while we're sitting on the sidelines, waiting to get a cut. We can do it ourselves.
Yeah. So did you hear what I said? Did you hear him?
Yeah, we heard him. Good to meet you. Good to meet you. Nice to know that you're from the city of brotherly love. I know that's what Philadelphia is called, right? I think we all did our I think we all did our introductions. Is there anybody else who hasn't introduced?
Yes, there is one person, Alma.
Okay.
Hi guys, can you hear me now? Yes, I'm sorry, I'm just picking up my groceries. I'm coming back upstairs. Hi.
I'm going to eject Larry because he makes too much noise. That's not.
Okay, I'll be back in 1 minute. Okay, I have to go up the stairs.
Okay.
All right, now we have a decent amount of noise. Let's start. So we are going to talk about Black communities. So who wants to start?
May I start?
Yeah, of course. Let's go.
All right. So you asked me about how Africans in the diaspora can stay in touch, can keep connected. I think that's what you asked.
You can understand it this way, but it's not like very defined. Like the Black community can mean something to you and means something else to me, or something else to Tamkara, you know? So just go on with what you think it is.
For me, Black community means anyone who's of African descent, be it African American, be it Afro-Caribbean. So long as you have roots in this continent, you are African. This is your home. This is your motherland. And I feel it's important for all of us to stay connected, be it through music, be it through language, or even just what we're doing right now. I think it's very important for us to cross-pollinate, to help each other understand who we are, why we are the way we are. For instance, the lady from Nigeria, I'm so sorry, I forgot your name.
Tamkara, that's fine.
Tamkara. Sorry, Tamkara. What you were saying about language and the differences in one country is very interesting, because we have the same issue here, where certain communities feel that our national language, Swahili, being a Bantu language, does not represent the Nilots, who are totally different, or the Kushites or the Hamites in the country. But then you see, what I try to do with a friend of mine is we run a podcast. And through this podcast, we're trying to heal our nation that seems to be very divided along ethnic lines. And what we're trying to do is bring out the best in each ethnicity, things that maybe we weren't taught in school for whatever reason, and tell each and every one of us, instead of accentuating the things that separate us, let's look at the things that make us great, the things that are similar between us. And so I feel, for me, that can help in terms of African identity.
Yeah. Love to hear that. Love to hear that. So when you speak about your nation, you speak about the Kenyan nation.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm looking at the different ethnicities in Kenya. And unfortunately for our society, especially politically, ethnicity has been used as a tool to divide Kenyans as a whole. So you have presidential candidates who come backed with one ethnicity, and then you have them attacking another ethnicity. And so what we have is a highly polarized society right now, especially a younger part of Kenya that doesn't quite understand why we're so divided and why we are so anti each other. And so I feel for older Kenyans, this is the best opportunity for us to heal our nation and tell us, where did it start? Why did we divide ourselves this way? Yes, I know colonialism brought us all together and, you know, created this country that really didn't exist. However, we're here to stay. Let's make the best of it, and let's accentuate the best of us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a really good
really great comment. I really, like what you say, and it really resonates with me. Especially when you said, how can we focus on the things that unite us rather than what divides us? That really stood out to me. And I always think the same, and I think about it on two levels. For those of us in Africa, in Kenya, in Nigeria, how can we move past ethnicity and see ourselves as one whole? And then taking it broader, for those of us in Africa, so Africans or Black people in Africa, and for those of us in diaspora, how can we see ourselves as one people, irrespective of where you were born, either on abroad or in America or in Africa? Because we look the same. If someone saw a Black person from America and a Black person from Nigeria, they couldn't tell which was which. We are the ones that create these boundaries and see these differences, but other people don't see these differences. If a Chinese person in China is going to be racist against a Black person in China, they're not going to ask you, are you American or are you Nigeria? They see us as one people. So is it possible, and this is an honest question, is it possible that we ever move beyond, ethnicity or where you were born, and begin to see ourselves as one people, one group of Black African people? Is it possible?
Yes. Yes.
Because there's so much, I'll say something, in Africa and beyond, there's so much trauma that hasn't been addressed. There's so much water under the bridge, Africans in like America see Africans from Africa as people that didn't care about them, sold them out and never cared about them and just want to come and benefit from where they haven't sowed or invested blood, sweat, and tears in. And Africans from Africa see it as if Africans in America don't like them, don't want to have anything to do with them. And there's just a lot of animosity and divide. So I'm asking, what can we do to recognize that this is there? And is it possible to fix it or not?
Ooh, big question.
May I?
Possible.
Yes.
It's possible.
I love the question. Sorry.
1 minute, please. Can Alma and Rajiv, can you introduce yourself real quick so you can join the conversation? Your mic is cut. I'm going to.
You need to unmute yourself.
Do you hear me now?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So I was saying, my name is Alma. I'm 38.
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, go on. Continue, Alma.
Bah, j'attendais qu'elle revienne. Yeah. So yeah, I'm 38.
Alright.
I live in Paris, and I'm originally from Guinea, West Africa.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet
too. I heard most of the thing you were saying earlier, but as I was telling you, Pierre, I was finishing up my groceries, and so I couldn't like keep the phone in my hand. But I was listening, so I know what you've been talking about.
Oh,
Yeah.
excellent. Uh-huh.
And there was one other person that you wanted to introduce themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Rajiv. I'm from Congo, Republic of Congo, Brazzaville. And actually, I live in China.
China. Wow. How are you doing? How are you holding out there?
Yeah, I'm fine.
How about you?
Yeah.
You're safe?
I'm not living in Guangzhou where there is a drama. I live in like 3 hours from Guangzhou. But in my city, is my city, everything is okay.
Okay. Good to hear.
Good.
Thank you.
All right. Excuse me, Mari. You can go on.
So the question Tamkara asked is, can we bridge the divide, and is it possible? So I do believe it's possible to bridge the divide. I feel that a lot of us don't know much beyond our borders. And so I believe conversations like this need to start. I also feel that people need to share information. For instance, African Americans get so shocked when they realize that we're not taught literally anything about the slave trade.
Yeah.
And so there is this disconnect between Africans on the continent and then African Americans. Then even within ourselves on the continent, there's a total disconnect, be it through a language barrier, be it through cultural barriers. And then, of course, the fact that we don't learn about each other. I cannot travel sometimes directly to another African country. It's only recently that our airlines that have decided that they will do, a lot of direct flights. But there was a time you could not fly directly to, another African country from one part of Africa to the other. Maybe you'd have to go first to Europe and then back, which I found totally ridiculous. But it was a way of separating us. And this is a colonial vestige that we must get rid of.
Yeah.
Well said. Yeah.
Definitely agree.
So I'm going to ask you. So Tamkara and Mari, you gave your opinion about. No, Tamkara, did you give your opinion about Black community? I don't think so.
Yeah, I did. I think I just kind of piggybacked off what Marie said. That we should look for the things that unite us instead of the things that divide us. Because really, if we're united, we're a force to be reckoned with. But when we're divided, we can just be exploited, taken advantage of, and we're not going anywhere.
Okay. So does anyone else want to say their opinion about the Black community?
I'll go.
Okay, Joshua.
So definitely one of the things that definitely plays a part in the separation is the complexion. A lot of us separate each other based off complexion because since the beginning of slavery, even like piggyback on what y'all was talking about as far as the slave trade, most of us don't even know that it wasn't actually the Europeans that put us in slavery first. It was actually the Arabs. And then the Europeans came along afterwards. So complexion definitely plays a part. And then when it comes to religion is definitely one thing that definitely does it a lot, because we've been taught that, that Jesus was white and that, we got to pray a certain way. We got to dress a certain way. We got to speak another language. Like even like when it comes to Islam, it's like they'll tell you in Islam that we have to change our name to an Arabic name. We got to start speaking Arabic, dressing like an Arabic. And it's like, that's not who we are. We're, African. So it's like, why do we have to change our way of how we connect with the Creator just because someone else doesn't understand it? And they have used religion as a tool. They use, first of all, they use many tools, but they've used a lot of tools to manipulate our minds to tell us that, oh, you got to die in order to go to heaven. You got to follow all these rules in the Bible and in the Quran. And it's like, the thing is, a lot of that came, almost all of it, before it was tampered with, came originally from the walls in Kemet. So it's like they took what they got from Kemet and made it into their own book, and then tried to put it off as, well, this is what the Creator said. I'm the prophet of the Creator, this and this and this. It's like, well, we already got our own prophets. You see what I'm saying? African people have our own prophets. The ones that's trying to lead us to, being unified and, leading us to being revolutionaries of our people. And then, like I said, going back to the complexion thing, is like, the light is kind of bright, but, we go on complexions. Like, if I see someone who's a black person who's light-skinned, if I had the mentality of thinking I was better than them just because I'm brown-skinned, that causes separation right there. Or then you have a light-skinned black person who will look at a dark-skinned black person and think that they're better because they might think their mentality might be, well, I'm light-skinned, so I'm closer to being fitting in with the white folks opposed to you, so I'm going to have more privilege than you. Now, realizing at the end of the day, they still going to see you as the same. They don't care if you're light-skinned. At the end of the day, first of all, we all know that the African gene is dominant. That's why anything we touch, you can be you could be an African with an Asian. The first thing you're gonna notice is when you look at that baby is that they're black. They're black. First thing you notice. So it's like, it's crazy that we it's so many things they used to keep us separated. And it's like, the complexion thing is definitely a bad thing. Like, we got to get rid of the complexion thing. We gotta get back to African spirituality. It's like we gotta not allow people. And it's sad to say that it's even our own people, some of our own people, we're going to have to, set aside from, because all of our people are not going to wake up. A lot of us are starting to wake up, which is a good thing, but there's going to be some that's just going to continue to not want to wake up, want to pay attention to what's going on when they see the stuff that's going on in front of their faces. Like, prime example with the coronavirus thing. Now they're trying to make it a thing, like, now they're saying, African Americans are more likely to catch the virus.
They're trying to make African Americans the face of the coronavirus.
Exactly. It's like, it's crazy. And then, like, what's going on in China is like, now, first of all, Chinese, don't like Africans in their country anyway. But now they're going to even take it to another level because of what the media is putting out there as far as the coronavirus. So it's like, it's crazy, that it's really crazy because, like, you think about literally almost everything we have comes from out of China. So it's like, we spend our money on them so much in other nationalities. Like, most of the resources came from Africa anyway. Without Africa, everybody in the world wouldn't even have that they have. You see what I'm saying? They wouldn't have the resources. They wouldn't have natural essential oils and butters, soaps, stuff like that. All that stuff comes from people. Is like, and that's one of the reasons why we're hated so much, because naturally better genes. Naturally, we're more powerful. And it's like, we're more connected with the Creator than anybody else, because it's been a proven fact that Africans are the only human beings on the face of the earth. Like, it's been a proven fact. So it's like, if we start to try to encourage our people, just get back into your root. Don't go off a complexion thing. Don't let someone of a practice religion tell you that just because you Islam or Christianity or religion, you're not allowed to practice your culture. Because at the end of the day, if you really think about it, we're actually practicing someone else's culture, not really a religion. Because if you're changing your language, you're changing your name, you're changing the way you dress, you're practicing someone else's culture. So if you choose to speak Arabic, choose Arabic over your own. Like me, being Haitian, like, it would be Creole. So, like, I'm teaching myself Creole because I wasn't born in Haiti. So, like, that's another thing too, like with our accents. I can speak the accent, but you gotta remember, because we've been scattered all around. If I was born in Haiti, 9 times out of 10, I would have had my natural accent. But because I was born in America, I have an American accent. So if you're someone who's born in London or, you know, anywhere else, you're going to have that accent because you grew up in that. So, you know.
Yeah. But when I spoke about accent, I meant, just to be clear, when I spoke about accent, I meant people who grew up like in Nigeria or Kenya or Ghana. But when they speak English, they want to speak it with a British accent or an American accent. You know, so that's what I was referring to.
Yeah. I understand. I was just saying, like, you know, like some people, some of our people, like this has happened to me a few times where, like, I would see another Haitian.
Can't hear you.
They'll ask me if I'm Haitian, and then I'll say yeah, but like they'll hear my accent. It's like, are you already like, you don't sound like it. So it's like, you know, that's what I meant by the accent. You know?
Joshua.
Got it.
Joshua, can you repeat? I think your connection broke. Did you hear him fine?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I think Alma wanted to say something.
Okay.
I think Alma wanted.
I wanted to go back to when you were talking about native languages. That is very important because, like, so I was born here in France, and my parents, they came here about 50 years ago, but they're like maybe the only couple that decided to teach their children our native language. So right now, I have a lot of cousins who don't like to go back to Guinea because they know they don't speak the language, and that people are going to make fun of them or things like that. And this is something that I'm very proud of, and that I'm very like grateful that my parents took this decision, because since I was a child, I would go back to my village, not even the city, but the village. Every summer, my parents, they would be like gathering money savings for the summer holidays, and they would send the four of us to our village so that we could meet the grandparents, the uncles, the aunties, like everyone. And it was a huge difference to be speaking the language than if you would be just speaking French, because most of the oldest people, they don't speak French there anyway. And it's a very it's a bonus. It's really great to have this.
It's something nobody can take away from you, and your parents really had foresight. I have to commend them. You know.
Yeah, sure, for sure.
From which Guinea are you from?
Conakry.
Conakry, okay. Yeah, go on, Mara.
The question I have for Alma is, I had the same issue as you, where I was brought up outside the country initially, but my parents spoke to me in mother tongue. So when I came back to Kenya, I was able to speak mother tongue, albeit with a slight accent, but I've gotten rid of that. But I did notice the laughing and the taunting. And I do feel that that is not right as Africans. When we taunt Africans for not speaking mother tongue, it's not by choice. This is circumstance. It's like the gentleman from Haiti who's lived in America. Do you also feel that you have that problem when you go to Haiti and you try to speak? First and foremost, have you ever gone back to Haiti? And if you have, do you get ridiculed for sounding American, or do you get praised for sounding American? And this is for the gentleman in Haiti, the Haitian gentleman.
Well, actually, I haven't been to Haiti yet. That's my plan. And well, as far as the crazy, like when I was younger, another black brother.
Sorry, is just 1 second. Is any of you touching the microphone, because it's making some sounds in my ears? I don't know if anyone else is hearing it.
Yeah, I hear it. It's just every now and then. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
So, yeah. So when I was in high school, I actually had a brother come up to me and ask me where I was from, and this was way before I grew my hair out and had the beard and everything. So he asked me, like, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from here." He's like, "Oh, you don't look like you from the islands." So, and it's crazy because my mom, I was telling Pierre and the other brothers and sisters last podcast that my mother is not really into the culture thing, and she's even told a story that, you know, other Haitian were asking Haitian because she has a Haitian name, and it's like, so did my grandparents. So it's like, you know, she would deny being Haitian just because necessarily born there, but that's even happened to me as well too. Like, I'll have Haitians come up to me and ask me without me even speaking, saying, "Oh, you Haitian?" I'm like, "Yeah," and just, they can just tell just from looking. So it's like, I never really had a problem so far. I mean, there was one time where, you know, like I said, I was saying before, where I would tell someone I'm Haitian, they would look at me like, "Really?" You know, but I'm definitely going to plan to go to Haiti because I want to. It's like, I want to get I want to go to Africa, any African continent, period. So that's the goal, is to go
Country.
anywhere, right, exactly. I want to go everywhere that has to do with our culture first. Like all these other countries, they can wait. I want to go to my country.
Yeah, makes sense. It's also something that I've been starting doing since like 2 years ago, because I've been traveling in many places, mostly in South America, but like the only African country that I knew was mine. And also I've been like for a few weeks in Senegal when I was a teenager. But then I found out 2 years ago that so many places in the world, but in Africa, like you just know 2 or 3 maximum.
Yeah.
So since 2018, I've decided that all of my holidays I would be spending them in an African country. So
Yeah.
far I've been able to go to Uganda.
Yeah.
Next door.
Yeah, Uganda, Rwanda, Cabo Verde, and my next one is normally Ghana or Nigeria.
Not Kenya.
Well done. Yeah.
Kenya will be down the list, but I will definitely go there for sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Maybe like the 6th or 7th country.
Well, you're welcome.
Thank you.
I really like what you say, Mary, and I find that, for me and my family, we've traveled a lot. I also had the same feeling like last year. We've traveled a lot, in America, in Europe, in Asia. And I said to myself, you go to all these countries, you spend so much money going there, but how many African countries have you visited to show your kids the culture? And you invest so much in the economy and tourism of other countries. But what about countries in Africa? So I'd actually been to, I've been to Kenya, I've been to Ghana, Cameroon, and a couple of, I don't know if I've been to any other African country. Let me see. Yeah, Ghana,
I forgot Ivory Coast.
Tanzania. I've been to Ivory Coast as well. Ivory Coast and Tanzania.
Nice.
But I said to myself, if you take the time to invest in visiting African countries, not only will you educate your kids on their African history, but you invest in the economy of your continent. And that's a win.
Exactly.
So I was actually, and then, a lot of countries you go to in Europe, it's the same thing you're going to see. You're going to see this museum and this cathedral, but they hype it so much. But we have so much beauty, so much culture, so much vibrance in our countries on the continent. We need to be the ones to go there and tell these stories, take these pictures, and really encourage people to invest in our own tourism. It's about loving yourself first, because when we go to all the other countries and we don't go to our countries on the continent, it seems like we don't appreciate the value that we have. So we feel like for us to get value, we need to go outside for every good thing. And when you have that, every good thing is outside. You're blind to the goodness that you have within. So it's something that I said to myself, and I was planning before the COVID to go to Ethiopia, which is really close to where I am now, and maybe Egypt. And I wasn't able to do that. So once the travel bans are over and we can travel again, my goal is to see as many African countries as I can, and also share the beauty with people so that we can encourage Africans and non-Africans to come and see what Africa has to offer. The image we have of Africa on the news is poverty, disease, and war, but there's so much more. And if we will not tell our stories, nobody's going to do it for us.
Yes.
Respect. Yep, definitely. We gotta do it ourselves.
Yeah, we need to love ourselves. We need to hype ourselves. We need to value what we have. And if you look at it, we don't always value what we have. We have crude oil, and we wait for it to be exported.
Processed,
Well, we have cocoa, and we wait for it to be processed into chocolate, in Switzerland or wherever. We have everything, but we're always looking outside. And the more you look outside, then you don't see what you have.
And I like the fact that you're traveling, and through the traveling, you're breaking down barriers, because when you meet other Africans, then you break the barrier or the stereotype about the type of African that you are.
Yeah.
You know how, for a very long time, West Africa was far removed from East Africa.
Yeah.
But then what we ended up having is a lot of West African pastors coming to Nairobi and the whole of Kenya. And, the whole flamboyant culture of Nigeria became very attractive to Kenyans. And before you know it, this was very silly. Kenyans would try and sound Nigerian. Or,
really?
It was very amazing.
Maybe
This was a couple of
they
years
were
ago.
watching too much Nollywood.
They loved it. And this was so amazing. The fact that Nollywood broke down barriers. These pastors coming into Kenya broke down barriers. I'm even made to understand, even in countries like Ethiopia, Nollywood was such a big thing. But then what it did was also encourage Kenyans and Ethiopians to do their own homegrown productions. And so now in Kenya, we have a lot of productions, and we based it on Nigerian movies. So this is a plus. It's a win-win. Once we break down these barriers, we travel, we get to know each other, we exchange ideas, we exchange culture. I mean, there's so much potential within us.
Yeah, when we can collaborate. Yeah,
that's true.
I agree. I agree. And then I don't want to talk too much, but I need to share this story with you guys. So I was reading something today, and I learned that Chad is a country in Africa. And they had borrowed some money from Angola. They had borrowed $100 million from Angola.
Yes.
And I think they couldn't pay it back, but they reached an agreement, between them. And Angola said, okay, Chad, if you cannot pay this $100 million, you can pay us in cows. So we're going to do a barter.
Trade.
And, a barter trade. We're going to do a barter. And instead of us to hold you to interest rates you cannot pay back and all for many, many years, you can pay us back in cows because we need cows here. We need the meat and all. And I thought to myself, why do we have to go and borrow so much money from China and all these countries that exploit us and give us these horrible conditions and horrible rates? We have everything we need. And if more countries within Africa would interact and collaborate, we can see this kind of, helpful interactions and deals going on, and will benefit the continent. It's the spirit of Ubuntu, I am because you are, and we're together in this. So what you said just reminded me of that article, and I wanted to highlight it.
It's an amazing thing. But I want to ask Rajiv, what is he going through now in China? Is he receiving backlash? I know you're not in Wuhan or Guangzhou, but are you in a space where you're able to be safe and your family's safe and other Africans are safe? What's the situation like, Rajiv?
Yeah, actually, in the city where I am living, I'm safe. But, you cannot really be sure that you are safe in China. Because Chinese actually, even if you have a good friend, but some of them, they are bad. As you saw the video everywhere, like the way they were treating African in Guangzhou and Wuhan, other city. They are. I have even one of my friends there that they just got out of his house. So all I can do is just to be careful, like the way I am living, working around outside. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. But in my city, since this issue of bad treatment or racism started, I am safe here, and my family, we are safe. It's just because, like, actually, it's lockdown. China is locked down, that I cannot even go out of China. But just praying I'm safe. And also, when you are talking about traveling in some of Africa country, I think is really good. It's a good idea because the more we travel in Africa, is the more we get to know our own culture. Is the more we can invest in our own land. Because I think the more we travel in Africa, we are also open-minded. Like me, I've traveled in Ghana, in Senegal, in Mali, and like I was living in Congo. Since I left Congo in 2014, but before that I didn't know anything about other countries. I didn't know anything. But when I started traveling, like I left my country to Ghana, to Senegal, Mali, and so on, I get to know others cultures and their origin, and this is good about us. And I think also about the communication. We need to know how to communicate with each other, and we need to know how to support each other. It's very important. Investing in Africa is good and it's easy, but for my experience, for African, it's very difficult to support his brother or sisters. He prefer to buy something from someone from France, a white guy or Chinese or whatever, than buying something from an African. This is the point. But I think it's very easy for us to be united. It's just all about the mentality. If just change our mentality, we just try to communicate, to be united with each other. Like everything starts by the communication. And
Yeah.
So
So I want to piggyback on what you say. Do you guys think that tribal communities are compatible with a Pan-African community?
Yeah, I think it is actually. But just to like to come back to a bit about what Rajiv was saying, this unity thing. I don't know if you've mentioned it or if you talked about it before I joined the conversation, but it's just that it has been undermined since the beginning. So we cannot act like there was no work of destruction made in order to cut this unity that we did have, even just like the borders that are created in our continent. Like they're going to cut a whole region between and make it two countries, whereas at the beginning it was like 3 or 4 different tribes, if we use it like that, joined in that same region. So just because of that, it's already very difficult to have this sense of community. And to go back to what you're asking, Pierre, about the tribal communities, this also is one tool, one weapon that they have used against us. It is like one of the most successful tool that they have managed to set in our minds, saying like acting that this one is not your brother, this one, they make one tribe, for instance, believe that they are superior to the other because, like let's say in Rwanda, so they went there, they say the light skin, the tall one, they are more intelligent than the brown and dark ones. So once they do that, obviously the people from each tribe are going to be scared of the other, or are going to think that, yes, I'm superior to this one, so I'm not going to fit in right, or like an equal. And the other one is going to be angry at the one that is supposedly superior to him.
Divide and conquer.
So this is really like one of the bases of the disunification. I don't know if you use it. Lack of unity. So I don't think it's not compatible, but there is a huge work to be done first, like to make sure everybody knows about this, that it not appear just like that. It's not like, yeah, okay, I don't like tribe, I don't like this tribe, this or that. So it's this work of deconstruction that we have to do first in order to be able to build something different that will be unified and not separated like we are right now.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I like what Alma has said, that whole deconstruction of the hate of the them versus us, because for all intents and purposes, yes, I am a certain tribe and I love my tribe and I love my identity, but I'm also Kenyan and I'm also African and I'm also Black. And neither of those identities supersede the other. They make me richer for being all of those identities. And I believe that is something that we need to push as Africans, that tribe is not a problem, because you go to other communities. In India, you'll hear Punjab, Urdu, Hindu, and they know that they have those differences, but when it comes to India, they're Indian. So why can we not be the same as Africans and say, I admire the fact that this community has that kind of a look, this community doesn't have this look, but it doesn't make one better than the other. That because we have these different communities, it makes us all the more richer. I cannot lose my identity for me to still be Kenyan. I am first and foremost my ethnic community, then Kenyan, then African, then Black. That is my position.
Okay, so that's really interesting what you're saying. In my opinion, we have enemies that are using exactly this to put us against each other. Meaning, the African community, we are a body, like with different members, the hand, the head, the shoulder, etc., etc. but we have each part of the body that is first and foremost the tribe. But I think the African unity will only arrive when it will first be part of the body before being part of the member. Meaning,
Yeah.
I think there will be African unity when we are African first and our tribe second. What do you think about this?
I think you're totally correct. But I feel that as Africans, we have allowed foreigners, outsiders to dictate to us the whole message of division. And I don't feel that we should do that. And I use the example of India because you've got tons of communities in India, you've got tons of languages in India. But when it comes to them being Indian, that's first and foremost their identity. So I agree with you that Africa, yes, is my identity, but I cannot lose that smaller identity that I have, because I believe that there's so much richness that you find in each and every ethnicity that if we lose, then we also lose a part of who we are.
I'd like to point out one thing though, because we are comparing one country with the continent. We're talking about India. Yes, there are a lot of communities in there, but how can we compare just one country with 54? So
I understand.
before feeling like an African, first of all, each of us have to be their own nationality, like in their own country, because each country already has many tribes and many communities in there. So the first step, I guess, would be to first unite those tribes inside the country, and then we would be able to have a like the bigger picture, like the idealistic goal would be, yes, we functioning as one unity, the continent, whole continent, this is Africa there. But for now, we cannot talk about this like realistically. We are way far from that. I know that I'm taking the example of my country, Guinea. The tribes, the wars against tribes are very strong. We had an example just a few weeks ago because they made a referendum there, and the political parties, they are just ruled by the ethnicity. People that vote for a program, they vote because the representative of this party is from my tribe or from my ethnicity.
Yes.
Problem. And after we've dealt with that and we've managed to create this unity inside the country, then we might be able to do something different. Because if you talk about Western Africa, Eastern Africa, the Northern Africa and South Africa, like Southern Africa, they have many differences. And it's hard to combine all of this if the unity is not already reached and achieved in the country in itself to begin with.
What does that unity look like, though?
For me, it would be like a powerful entity. Like when you say, for instance, the European Union, they achieved to make rules.
The European Union is not united, though. We can see it through the coronavirus pandemic.
Not united like in some parts, but I mean they do work, they do function as an entity when they are making decisions like in the high level about politics, about economics. They are a powerful unity because it's all this jointure of different countries. So this would be the aim of having Africa as one unity, because definitely you will have more power in decisions, in this decision making. Well, at least that's what I think.
Well,
can I ask a question? Sorry, are we talking about African unity or African identity? Because if we're talking about African identity, I think we should, I see myself first as an African before I see myself as a Nigerian. So if we're talking about identity or unifying the continent, it's different. For unifying the continent, you need to first start.
I was talking about unifying.
Okay, were you talking about Pierre? Were you talking about identity or unity? Because I thought you were asking about identity with the analogy of the body being a body first before the hand and the legs.
To me, it's the same thing, though, because I want to answer what you're saying, Alma. So to me, it's really important. The goal is not just being unified; it's being unified in a way that is highly effective. Meaning, you have, in my opinion, 3 different kinds of unity. You could have a unity like the European Union, which is like a community of countries. You can have a unity like the United States, which is a federation of states. or you could have an imperial unity, which is, for example, I would say in Japan, there used to be a lot of different tribes, you know, but right now their identity is Japanese because the imperialist Japanese culture made the people feel identify themselves as Japanese first and their tribe. And it's the same thing in most European countries. For example, in France, the French identity is actually an imperial identity. But inside French, you also have different tribes, but most of the people identify with the imperial identity, which is the French identity. And so my question is, what do you guys think about which form of unity is the best? And each form has like its advantages and its disadvantages.
But I didn't really get what would be the difference. You're talking about those three structures are not different in the goal of the setting up of that structure. Like the fact that it's a conglomerate of states or a conglomerate of countries or a conglomerate of communities inside a country, for me, the goal is the same. It's to be more powerful, to have more strength, and to make your voice heard. And if the people against you or around you don't want to listen to it, they still have to, because you are so powerful that they cannot do without your voice.
I agree. The goal is actually the same, but the structure is not the same. And so the way the unified, the way I just read a message I was sent by Tamkara. The way the people are unified matters, because in the face of a war, in the face of a crisis like this one, the unity, the form of the unity will have a really different result. For example, the European Union is virtually dead in the face of coronavirus. There is no response from the European Union against the coronavirus. And each country inside the European Union are fighting each other because of this. But it's not the same. You don't see the state of California stealing masks. In my knowledge, though, you don't see the state of California stealing masks from the state of Texas. But you do see France stealing masks from Spain, stealing masks from Italy. And the imperialist model, in my opinion, is the more strong, is the more strongly glued.
Well, I have an example like that goes against what you're saying about the states. You do have each state taking making their own decision, having their own rule. What's something that would be told or allowed in Texas might not be allowed in Washington, for instance. So you still do have this this difference. Even though there is a unity, like you're gonna say they're all American, but then they do have their own differences and their own specificities. So, and it's the same for the European Union then, because right now you're talking about the example of the crisis, but the reason why it's like that is because this is a crisis. So they don't know how to react, and the first thing that people want to do, they're going to focus first on their country, what's happening in their country, how to deal with it, how to save most people, and then if they've handled that situation, yeah, we can be speaking about the whole European Union. But I mean, this is a crisis, so it's not like a normal situation.
Well, yeah, go on.
I have a question for Alma. You talked about the politicization of ethnicity in Guinea, and we have the same problem here in Kenya. So my question would be, how do we heal that aspect of our societies? How do we do away with that negative ethnicity? Because I believe that is what destroys that idea of patriotism, that we are first our ethnicity when it comes to politics. We're first our ethnicity when it comes to anything that pertains to the nation. I see sometimes Kenyans uniting, but it only happens around sports or around, you know, when we have a famous Kenyan out there doing good on the international stage. But then when it comes back to every nitty-gritty day affairs, we're suddenly this ethnicity versus that ethnicity. So as Africans, I believe that is where the crux of the matter is. And I feel that that is what needs to be addressed first and foremost for us to even have that national identity. And so maybe I'm putting it to you, Alma, or anyone else who has an answer. How do we do away with the negative ethnicity?
I think
What do you mean, the negative ethnicity?
Because the ethnicity is used against us. So it becomes them versus us. I don't believe that being a certain tribe is a bad thing. But I believe when you use that ethnicity against another ethnicity for political reasons, then it becomes a problem. That's when it becomes negative.
You're talking
because
about
you politicize it.
You're talking about tribalism. That is
Yes.
your question. Okay.
Yeah.
I think the communication is the key about that, like to break all the wrong information that has been said and learned and digested by us for so many generations. So this would be the first thing when we're going back again with the deconstruction thing, and also by showing examples of people who in their daily lives don't feel that way and don't act that way. So maybe it would be with a wedding between a man from this tribe and a woman from that other tribe, and showing that everything is working out and that there is nothing negative with this. Or it could be, as you said, with the famous singer or artist. Those also, they do have their role in that. They could be singing, sorry, about this unity, about this fact that, oh, I've heard about this woman from this tribe, and I found out that she's like this and that like that. You know, kind of making all these things go away and having a different perception.
Excuse me, 1 second. Tamkara, she needs to go join our family. So can you say some words to wrap up the conversation, and thanks for having been with us.
Wow, it's been really a wonderful conversation. I've really enjoyed talking with you guys. I don't want to leave, but my kids are already agitating for their dinner. And then, I want to stay here and talk more, because I really feel like, we're sharing our minds, we're sharing ideas, and there's something, coming out of all of us being in this space and really being open and honest. So I hope that we can keep this conversation going. I will put my name in the chat. So if you guys can connect with me on Facebook, that would be lovely. I want us to keep the conversation going, support each other, and just really start that revolution where we begin to connect and look for our similarities and look for ways to really advocate for more unity for Africans on the continent and in diaspora. So thanks a lot. And I'm sorry I have to leave. I don't want to leave, but I have to, because if I don't, then you're going to see my kids come up in the next 2 minutes. Okay, so
it was nice meeting you. Bye.
Same here. Okay, take care.
One second. Do you want your name to be in the caption of the podcast and your Instagram handle?
It's fine. I'm indifferent. I'm not very out there, but one of the things I want to do more of in the coming weeks is to make more videos, be more visible. So my first impression would be to say no, but I'm going to, go out of my comfort zone and say, yes, it's fine. Yes, you can add my name.
I can just add your Instagram handle if you want.
Yeah, Instagram handle. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Use your discretion. Whatever you decide, I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks a lot for inviting me, and thanks a lot, guys, for engaging with me. And we'll keep in touch.
Okay. Nice meeting you. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
All right.
Bye.
So, excuse me, Alma, please go on.
No, I think I was done.
Okay. So it was Mary. It was one of you.
Well, I think she's answered my question. I like the fact that she said it starts with us, that we have to start verbalizing positivity about each other and not the negativity. But I still feel that politicians don't really have philosophical platforms, and so they tend to go to tribe for their votes and for their message. And so I also feel the onus is upon us Africans to look for leadership, or even put ourselves out there that will allow for such kind of leadership to be done away with totally.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, Mary. Because I agree with everything that you guys said. And I think one of the things that can definitely help us, we gotta stop focusing too much on the titles. You see, when people focus on titles, that's why there's a lot of separation, you know, because of the titles. It's like, it's just like, you know, having a job, you know, whereas though I can be a general manager, and then people under me can be supervisors or workers. So when the titles come into play, some of us as African people, when we get those titles put into our minds, we will use that against our own people because we feel like we're better than the next. And it's like, once we get rid of the titles and we realize at the end of the day, it don't matter if what title you call yourself. At the end of the day, these Europeans are going to look at all of us the same. They're continuously look at us all the same. It doesn't matter how much money you have, what kind of car you drive, what kind of clothes you wear. At the end of the day, they don't care about that. First of all, but they don't want to do business with us in the first place unless they get in a piece of the pie. So that's why it's very important for us to continue to grow the black dollar. Like, we got to invest into us and us only. And it's like, at the end of the day, you know, there's some who say that all white people are not racist and this and that. It's like, I spoke on this in the last podcast. There's a difference between racism and oppression. Racism is someone trying to be ahead. Oppression is when what they've been doing to us, and they're still doing to us. I'm sorry, beating on us, raping us, killing us, all just because of, you know, how we look, our skin complexion, our hair. You know, it's like they discriminate against us so much. Like they tell us, like, you can't have locks. You got to cut your locks off in order to graduate school and all that kinds of things. Like, it's ridiculous. And it's like, it also has put too much trauma on us, because there are even Africans who will say the same thing. There will be Africans that say, "Oh, I don't want to get locks. Locks are nasty. This and this." And it's like, well, they only believe that because they've been taught to believe that. A lot of us have been taught to hate ourselves. So the more we do our research, and the more we continue to put the real history of who we are out there, because even though we don't own the media, we can still use the media as a platform to continue to help wake our people up. Because they know that most black folks look at the media anyway, which is why they are doing what they're doing as far as the coronavirus. Because most of us know that all those numbers are not adding up. All the deaths are not adding up. But of course, they're going to put that out there because they know as long as we keep people scared and in a panic, they're going to continue to follow suit. Because you got to remember, we don't own the court system. We don't own the politicians. They own all of that. So that's why they can make the decisions to say, oh, well, lock down this country, lock down that country. Whereas though we basically got to follow suit in some sort of cases because of what they said, because they own it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if we started creating our own Supreme Court systems, we made our own hospitals, supermarkets, libraries, things like that, especially because the money over here, you know, is worth more in Africa. So just think about the money that we use in the U.S. Countries, and and we bring it over to Africa. We can buy land, open up our own businesses, and things like that. You know, it's a lot of, we definitely have a lot of work that we still have to do. But the first thing is helping our people unlock that consciousness part of our mind, because that mental slave mentality is very, very strong. And as long as they continue to put that fear into our minds, which is false evidence appearing real, then they're going to have control over us mentally. That's the reason why, like, when it comes to police brutality, we will be out in the streets and attack our own in a heartbeat just from looking at us the wrong way. But if a European cop does something like that, we'll be scared and fall back. And instead of jumping on a European cop that's beating down another black man or another black woman, we'll sit there and record it. And be like, oh yeah, I got it on video. Well, what we should be doing, we need to be stopping that from happening. If it's like 20 of us and there's only like 5 cops, then we shouldn't be afraid to tackle them, because that's why they keep doing it, because they know that they have put fear in our minds to not react to those certain situations. So if we get rid of the fear of fighting back, like, we have to use 2 strategies. We got to fight back physically and mentally. And the physical part, you know, is like I said, the police brutality, the killing, you know, they're, you know, just doing what they want to do, what they've been doing, you know. And then it's the mental. We got to kill them with the mental as well, to where as though we use our consciousness and our powerful mind. We collide all of that together, all of our, what's the word I'm looking for? We collide all of our ideas together into one big idea that can globally benefit all Africans around the world, to where as though we're going to continue to keep growing our wealth, which is another reason why we definitely got to be more serious about our health. And that's another reason why I've been in the health and fitness for over 20 years. And my mom is diabetic. She has MS. And one of the reasons why it's like that is because, we all know how a lot of our parents are. They don't want to listen to us because they be like, oh, well, I've been here longer than you, so I know what I'm talking about. So it's like she won't try to listen to me or my siblings when we try to tell her, Mom, stop eating all that sugar. Stop drinking all these sodas. Stop smoking those cigarettes. And it's like once we start with the health as well, that's very important. We gotta feed our bodies the natural nutrition, fruits, vegetables, natural herbs, drinking plenty of water, and then exercising. We have to put that into the strategy as far as, adding it to the wealth as well. So once we add the health and the wealth, it'll help us think better. We'll be more confident with each other. And that's definitely a great way for us to unify. Like, prime example, we could do like a thing where it's like we can do Zoom videos, exercising videos, stuff like that, or we can do like seminars, where we can teach all African people, how to do real estate, how to do health and fitness, how to be entrepreneurs. Like, all of these things we just have to push it more into the community so that everyone can see it, so that we all can grow from it and learn from it.
Yeah. Well, you have a lot of ideas, Joshua. Like, you're going all over the place. You're talking about health, about about police brutality, about economics. Like, yeah. But I totally agree with you. So I wanted to answer Alma. I hope she's coming back.
Yeah, I'm hearing you guys. I'm hearing.
Oh, cool. Okay. So you were talking about the European Union, but you know about the African Union, right? Yeah. And so if the European Union is what we are looking to reach, so you think like just the African Union, if reformed, could be enough? That's my question.
If this form could be what you say?
If reformed.
Reform.
If you say like our goal as African unity is the model of the European Union.
This is not what I said. This is
okay, but I didn't
not what I
understand
said, and that's not what I think. No.
Yeah.
I was giving an example of a way to be unified, because you said you talked about different structures. You talked about the unification as like different countries unifying. Then you talked about different tribes unifying in the same country, and the other one was the example of the United States with the Confederation. So that's the only thing I said about the European Union. But no, definitely not a goal, especially since how we see things are being handled at this stage. You said earlier that it's dead, and I do agree with you. It's been many years already, several years, that this is not working. You see the same countries making the decisions. So no, definitely this is not all the people who are like professionals in economics or in international relations or in politics. They're going to say that this is a failure. It's a complete failure. This trial of European Union. It's just a facade. It's just
Well, so okay, I understand what you're saying, and I want to press on my point about imperialism, because I think we have to stop doing something that we as a community often do. We often compare ourselves to Western people, European people, Asian people, but we are a people that is really different, and some realities that exist in, for example, the term developing countries. Like, we are not going to evolve into France or into the UK. That's not going to happen, because we are completely different at the core. And so I am talking about African unity at the scale of the continent. And to this end, I am looking in history at some examples of African states that unified several tribes in an effective manner. And what some examples that come in mind are the Kingdom of Kush from ancient time, Ethiopia, the Kingdom of the Congo, the Mali Empire, all of those, they are not a federation of states, they are not a community of states, they are empires. And so, in my opinion, historically, what has worked with us is empires. Some of them were like constitutional empires where it's not like a dictatorship, where the people actually have a say, but it's not a European democracy either. So, what do you think about this, guys?
Well, now this will be my last comment because I also have to go. So basically, in terms of African historical empires, research has shown that there was, unfortunately, not that much unity all round. Certain communities were downtrodden by others. So I wouldn't say that would be one of the best examples. Even today, if you look like a country like Ethiopia, you have a very large portion of their society agitating for their voice, and this is the Oromo community. So I wouldn't quite look at traditional or historical African societies from that point of view in terms of imperialism. However, if we're to look at it in terms of unity of trade, unity of culture, unity of language, I think that would be more powerful, like what the Swahili coast of East Africa were able to achieve between the 1300 and 1500, where you have, you know, all these city-states from southern Somalia all the way down to Mozambique and the Comoros. And we're able to stand as separate entities, but also a unified community, so to speak, in a manner of speaking. I don't know if I've answered your question, but I hope the conversation can continue. I must say my goodbyes, though. It was very nice speaking to all of you, Rajiv, Alma, Joshua, and Pierre. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Mara.
You too, Mary.
Nice having you.
Nice meeting you.
Very nice meeting you all. And I don't mind my Instagram handle being put, but not the one for some Afro. Pierre, we had spoken on my other Instagram, Let's Be Honest.
Okay.
Maybe what I'll do is I'll text it to you.
Yeah, just DM me. I'll use this one. You say, hi, it's Mari. I want this one to be.
All right, thank you.
Right.
Merci beaucoup.
Lot, Mari.
It was very.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Mary.
Alrighty. Bye, Rajiv. Bye.
Bye.
So, Rajiv, you're not talking a lot.
I'm listening to you guys.
Okay.
I was wondering, Rajiv, how long have you been in China for now? Did you go there straight after you left Congo?
Nope. I was in Senegal first. After Senegal, I went to Ghana, Mali, and I've been here. It's been like 5 years.
5 years. Okay. Wow. Very long time.
Yeah.
Now you're fluent in Chinese. Well,
Come
not
again?
Chinese, but I said you're fluent in one of the languages in China. I think it's Mandarin. Oh.
Yeah, Mandarin. Even Chinese. Yeah, I can speak Mandarin.
Cool. Cool. What about the other participant that is just his picture? Is it there? The Tajon McLean?
He doesn't speak, so I guess he's just listening.
Okay.
Yeah. So I propose we wrap up in about 10 minutes. So do you want to like use this time to add something to the conversation?
I'd like to ask you, Pierre, how did you come up with this idea about this subject? And first of all, I'd like to thank you for doing it, because with this virus and this confinement, all the ways to communicate with people, to keep in touch, is very, very nice. And it's very much sought for. And yeah, so my other question was to know why you thought about this.
Okay, so my wife and I, we are from Cameroon, and we have this idea of one day coming back to Cameroon, but we have thought about a lot of things about, you know, all the culture that we have in Cameroon has become an alienating culture that is not a true African culture. And so we created these trips to Cameroon for Black people to discover Africa and reroute ourselves like really into our culture. Meaning, most people, at least in my family, I don't know about you, most people are not aware that African cultures have actually a bunch of writings, of writing system. Are you guys aware of that?
What? Sorry?
Of writing systems?
Rising?
Yes. So
I didn't understand that one.
many people in Africa actually believe that the Europeans brought writing.
Writing. Okay.
Yeah, writing to Africa.
Oh yeah.
You did know that
That there were writings and way of communicating a lot,
yeah.
long time before the arrival of the superhero.
Way before.
Way before. And you, Rajiv, did you know about it?
Yeah, way before too.
Way before, okay. And for example, in Cameroon, we have a few writing system. The Bassa people have a writing system. The Bamum people also have. We also have NCBD, which is of the Igbo people. And since they are close to Cameroon, some people in Cameroon also use NCBD. And so we are going to have, just an initiation, because of course we can't master it, but just, know the basics that we can learn about it, and also the languages. So I am Ewondo. It's a Bantu language, and my wife is Bamileke. So we are going to speak those two languages, and we will like to learn Swahili and other stuff, but we only know those two languages, and also like a lot of, I would say, cultural sites that needs to be visited. One fact is not known, that in Cameroon we actually have a deportation port from which African was stolen from the. We have the ruins of those, and I think it's really important to visit those places to learn about our history. Kind of like the island of Gore in
Senegal, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so that's the trip we're trying to make, and that's the way we want to come back to Africa, and to start bringing value and money to our community. First in Cameroon, because that's where we are from, but then in the whole Africa. So if you want to join, you're welcome. And so yeah, if you ask, that's the reason I made this podcast, and that's the reason I'm engaging in our community, is to build the business. But the business, as you can see from what I'm saying, and my interest, the business is not just about making money, because if you want to make money, it's going to be much easier to have a job in the West. That's actually what most people do, and that's what, for example, my parents want think is smart to do. And so we also made we also have in Paris Pan African meetup. That's where Alma joined us from. And so yeah, that's why I'm making this podcast to the community.
I don't